in my face that will be recorded. So I might, if there's questions or certain discussion points, I might be repeating whatever you're saying just to make sure that that's memorialized in the Zoom recording, if that's troubling to you. But anyway, let's move on through. Then if you're good, Mr. Chair, I want to, so yeah, we have the agenda tonight. It's not meant to be a super long meeting. I think we should be able to get out of here by 7. I expect that our future meetings might be longer, but we can discuss that. So we've taken care of saying hello, and I just want to let you guys know too, if you need the bathroom or water, it's just outside the hall. Go toward the entrance. Women's is to the right and men's is to the left, and there are water fountains in the hall as well. No public comments. So overview of this plan update process. I'm going to sort of go through the overall process. I'm going to talk about this committee and its purpose and activities, overall activities and timeline for this proposed plan update. It's sort of an aggressive timeline, so we'll cover that. A couple items or workshops that have already been scheduled, and then I want us to create our schedule for this committee. So we'll do that toward the end, and have discussion, open discussion, and into business, and then adjourn. So before we move on, any questions, any thoughts about something we should add to this agenda? I mean, I know I should say we just approved it, so time to change the agenda is over, right? Obviously, like Joseph said, we're taking this kind of informally. We can do Robert's rules. I would suggest that we're going to do Robert's rules just to take care of sort of the agenda items that we need to cover for business, but also when we do have votes, I expect we'll probably have some votes towards the end of this committee's, I guess, time meeting, when we need to start making decisions about recommendations to go to the Planning Commission, City Council. And at that point, we'll probably just operate under Robert's rules until that time. This is meant to be open discussion, friendly conversation, and making sure that this process is going the way it should. All right, so obviously we went around the room tonight and found that we have a bunch of people from a bunch of different organizations and boards and commissions. The scope of this committee, I guess, or the membership of this committee is wide ranging. We're trying to really cover a lot of sort of ground as far as boards and commissions. We've got the Planning Commission, City Council, Commission on Environment. Our DDA member is not here tonight. Greg Ballline, Historic District Commission, Housing Commission, that was Parker, right? Human Rights, thank you, Helena. Parks and Rec Advisory, I don't see Joshua Ramirez Roberts. Seniors Commission, we have Robbie, thank you. Transportation, was that Nathan? University Student Commission, unfortunately, the chair of that commission is unable to make it tonight, but he will be joining us for future meetings. And then the Zoning Board of Appeals, the vice chair, Beverly Bonning, is also going to be serving on this committee, but she's unable to make it tonight. And then we have these stakeholder organizations, Capital Area Housing Partnership, thank you, Emma, for being here. CATA, who we have Dustin online, East Lansing Public Schools, the superintendent. LACO is unfortunately not able to make it tonight. It's spring break. Ingham County Health and Mid-Michigan District Health Department. Those are the health departments for Ingham and Clinton counties, respectively. Unfortunately, neither of their representatives were able to make it, but they're the medical directors. Lansing Economic Area Partnership, thank you, Nick. Michigan Disability Rights Coalition, thank you, Aaron. And Michigan State University, and we have a few. So we have a good wide range, and that's because this is a comprehensive plan, and comprehensive plans are meant to be wide ranging, right? Covering the whole community, but this is still a comprehensive plan update. So what we're really doing with an update versus a new plan altogether is just really focusing on what has changed since our last comprehensive plan. That was in 2018. It was called The Bigger Picture. So I was trying to come up with a good name, and that's why I came up with The Bigger Picture in Focus, because the idea is that we're really focusing in on what happened in the last 5 years. How do we need to change our comprehensive plan if we need to change it? But we've had a fairly momentous 5 years since 2018. So we can consider what has changed, what should change in our comp plan as we move forward. We have also identified several focus areas. The overarching focus area for this comprehensive plan is social equity. So we got to look through a lens of social equity every step of the way, making sure that we're keeping in mind, if nothing else, trying to get the voices and the needs and understand the needs of populations who are not typically the ones at the table, right? The ones that may not necessarily have the voice, that may not necessarily be sort of as involved or may not have means to be as involved as some other populations in this community. So who that population is kind of up to you to determine. All right, but the idea is that we need to make sure that those whose voices aren't necessarily being heard around this table and in the process are still being considered. So then within that social equity lens, move this a little bit too, we've identified three sort of more land use focused sort of topic areas that we really want to drill in on. Housing. East Lansing has seen some housing changes in the last few years. Specifically, we've seen a lot more higher density, especially downtown. You may know that East Lansing has rental restriction overlay districts. We can talk about those. There's a lot of rental questions. We also have a very high proportion of rentals in the city compared to many other cities, in the 55%, 60% range. And most cities are sort of opposite that, where they have a much lower percentage of rentals and higher percentage of owner-occupied properties. So housing is an item of discussion, an item of interest. And we've also been seeing some prices ticking up slowly but surely. And so affordability of housing has been a hot button issue for us. Public health, this came up. I think it had something to do with the pandemic. That, you know, pandemic has changed people's relationship with the city. And how exactly that's changed is sort of an individual activity, but we know that how people interact with each other outside, interact with the places they used to go to more often, or however it might be, their social outlets, things are different now than they were 5 years ago. So we want to consider how do we need to, I guess, approach our planning processes in terms of public health in this comprehensive plan process. And then finally, sustainability, excuse me. And finally, sustainability, and that's, we talk about triple bottom line sometimes, sustainability of, you know, environment and economy and equity. This is generally sort of focused on environmental sustainability, climate resiliency. That's come up as sort of an early engagement efforts that came up as an item of real concern, especially among our younger participants. I want to mention the student engagement portion of this process has been ongoing. We're bringing in the sort of non-student part right now, but I wanted to make sure that we had student engagement early on, while students were in session, while they're in town, for those that take off. So, and also done by students. So we have an MSU group from the urban planning program, the practicum team, which is sort of their capstone senior year kind of activity or end of graduate studies. And they've been going out trying to get good engagement from the student body on and off campus. They've been running a survey since early February. I think they just wrapped it up. I want to say on the 23rd. So we should be seeing their results pretty soon. And that's certainly going to inform the process, but we just wanted to make sure that so the student discussions and engagement were being done by students during the term. We'll sort of reinvigorate that student engagement when we get back into the fall as well. But during student engagement and also during community engagement activities last year, sustainability just kept coming up. Boy, we've been seeing things happen. We saw those wildfires, we've seen weather changes, whatever it might be, too many blizzards. Let's talk about sustainability. Let's talk about climate change. So that's going to be one of our focus areas. Before I move on to the next slide, any questions, comments, thoughts on this? Okay, so this committee is formed as a coordinating committee. The reason we're using that sort of phrasing of coordinating versus say steering is that this is a pretty fast process. It's meant to be an update. It's not meant to be a whole new master plan. We're just kind of looking at, you know, how did this work before? How does it need to work now? And how do we make sure that we're covering sort of as much of our bases and as much of the population as we can? And so all of you represent certain people, certain constituents, if it's on a commission or for a certain topic, or you're with a certain organization, and might represent people or interests to do with that organization. We're hoping that you'll help to sort of act as a liaison to that group, spread the word about what's happening with this process, bring feedback back to this committee, say, you know what, I've been talking to my seniors commission and they found that XYZ could use some help. Great, now we know, let's adjust as we go forward. So this, just like everything in the planning and zoning world, it's always kind of changing, right? There's a lot of gray area. We change zoning ordinances all the time, have to accommodate things that are changing in the community. This process can change. Nothing's set in stone. This is our sort of my best guess at how we can approach this. We don't want to stray too far, I think, unless we have to. But what I'm presenting here is proposed and can change. So I mentioned it's a little limited scope. It's just, again, an update. It's not a new plan. But the idea with the comprehensive plan, right, is that it's a guidance document. So we're guiding development in our city and how we're sort of creating our city as we move forward for at least 5, if not probably 10 years. Beyond 10 years tends to be unrealistic. You can say 20 years, that's a lovely idea. In my experience, I've never found that 20 years is really on the dot. It should always be a little bit shorter. I don't know if MSU feels different, Mr. Truce, but. Okay, good. So what we do ask for you is participation. You know, just let your thoughts out there. If you see things, if you hear me say something, you're like, whoa, I don't think that that's quite accurate. Tell me. That's cool, right? I have a very specific role in this city, and you all have very specific roles too with what you're doing. I don't know what you do. You don't know what I do, right? So let's share and let's be open. Let's be respectful. Let's be honest, and let's sort of speak our truths, right? Let's just be open and honest as we go forward. Because if we're trying to create a certain thing, you know, it's like trying to create a certain personality, right? You can't really change who you are at the end of the day. You're still going to be yourself. So don't try to make something up. You're still representing people, but you're speaking from your lived experience. So just keep that in mind. Let's see, and then we'll check in monthly at this committee meeting, hour or two each time. Just checking in. Hey, how did things go? How are they going? Do we need to change things? And do we have questions or comments or need to have a discussion about anything that's happened? So with that, any questions about this sort of committee layout? Questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, Sue. Let's talk about timeline. So right now we're sort of in pre-planning. We're just getting started, right? Just formed this committee. We've done a little bit of student work, but really haven't done that much in the community for non-students. Getting this committee started is part of this. We're going to start going with some workshops in the community starting in April, and I'll talk about that in a second. Speaker series, workshops every month that are going to be focused on topics. And then later on this year, my hope is probably November, December-ish, we'll start to check back with the community and get this thing adopted. So a little more detail about that. Let's blow up the community engagement point, speakers and workshops. On April 11th, and there's a, in your binder, you'll see a flyer, oops, right at the front pocket of your binders with like 6 or 7, I think, of these flyers about Dream, Play, Build. And Dream, Play, Build is going to be our first major public workshop. It's probably going to fill up. It's going to be in this room. I think we can take about 100 people max. Registration is available online through Eventbrite. It's free, but we are asking people to register. So Dream, Play, Build is a hands-on interactive workshop. It's going to be, Thursday, April 11th, which happens to be the same time as the Historic District Commission meeting. We're going to move the Historic District Commission upstairs, and it'll be done. This will mostly be done in time to get up and do the business for that too. So, except for Michael, all of you should be able to participate in Dream, Play, Build on April 11th, hopefully, and even Michael can. So the Dream, Play, Build exercise essentially is hands-on model building using all kinds of materials. And you say, oh, what are we doing? Is this Legos? No, not quite. It's essentially, it's a good way to drill down to your core values. And you're gonna have to see how it works. You're gonna have to participate in this workshop to see how it really works. But it's kind of neat because you can get down to core values and get rid of sort of your adult concerns and adult anxieties about what's happening in the city. Oh my God, is there enough parking? Is it in the right place? How expensive really is parking? Or excuse me, housing, whatever it might be, right? You can say, no, let's not worry about all that stuff, all the real life stuff right now. Let's just talk about what does our perfect city look like and how we're going to get there. So that's what this workshop is really going to help with. Then what we'd like to do is sort of May down through October. I'm going to move this guy again. What I'd like to do is have a speaker series, sort of a lunchtime speaker series, right, during the day. And then the evening, have a workshop to sort of build on what we heard from that speaker that day. It could be all one day, it could be separated. That's one thing I want to talk about tonight. But regardless, we'd have a speaker that would talk on a certain topic, sort of from the expert perspective, right? Our first is currently planned to be May 9th. That's also a Thursday. That's in your agenda. That's going to be Dr. Rex Moore. He's the director of MSU's Center of Community and Economic Development, urban planning professor, great guy. I'm very excited to have him here because he's going to help us, all the participants, sort of frame their thinking when it comes to a comprehensive plan. How do we really get at this from the starting perspective, including if we've never participated in this kind of process before? Now, many of you have, and that's great, but Rex will help us really sort of get our minds in the right point in the right direction. So that's currently planned for May 9th. And then our intent is to have some sort of a workshop after that. But I kind of wanted to check the approach with you guys first before we really get into all the scheduling. In June, our hope would be that we bring in an expert on social equity. We have a couple people that we've been talking to, and then have a workshop later to really say, okay, what did our experts say? What's the status in East Lansing, and how do we need to move forward? You know, there's a housing chapter, there's a bunch about social equity, there's some sustainability in the old 2018 plan, nothing about public health, so we'll get to that. So we can always be looking back and saying, what's still good, what needs to change, but we're focused each month on a specific topic. So we're starting again because social equity is an overarching lens. Yes, Robbie? Yes. Definition of social equity is essentially, I want to say it very succinctly, and I don't know if I can. I can't do much succinctly, in case you guys haven't noticed yet, but essentially recognizing that the playing field isn't necessarily level, right? For people in general. Some people have more capacity and more resources and more wealth and more rights and more voice, and some people don't, for all kinds of societal reasons. And so we recognize that and try to redirect resources so that whatever those resources might be, so that they're sort of being directed to the people who need them more than the people who maybe already have them, don't need them as much. So this could be, for example, in community engagement, maybe we always have meetings at Hannah Center, but we say, oh boy, I'd really like to have it somewhere else. It's hard to get here for people without a car, for example, although it's not really, you know, there's a bus stop. I'm just sort of using an example, but let's say that we're not having an engagement at Deer Path. Well, let's have a meeting at Deer Path. You know, maybe Deer Path residents aren't being heard normally. So here's the way we can do it. And let's talk to them about housing. So that could be one way that we approach it. It could be for seniors. Our Age-Friendly Communities Committee is working on sort of an update to their own age-friendly work plan from 2020, and they're doing it right at the same time as this plan, because the two interweave really well. So I know the age-friendly community is saying, hey, seniors need to be heard. You know, we need to make sure that our land uses are working for seniors too. I might say, hey, seniors being heard, but you can always be heard more, right? And the seniors who are at the table are not always necessarily the seniors who need to be heard, right? So we have, that's where I was saying earlier, it's kind of up to you and kind of up to the context to determine what really is social equity in this specific context. Others here, I'm guessing, will have a much better definition of social equity. And if that's the case, feel free to shout it out right now, or just nod to yourself and say, okay, well, he has kind of an understanding, but I know what it really is. Share it amongst yourselves. We want to make sure that we have some sort of understanding, at least. That's my understanding of social equity. That's how I approach it. So I'm looking at social equity, I guess, and this is what I hope to have our expert come in and talk to us about, right? Hey, what is your definition? Let's adjust that. How can we make this really powerful and really make sure that we're doing what we want, what we say we want to do, right? And then that can help inform our approach. Then we'll start focusing on the individual focus areas within that: public health, sustainability, housing. I thought I'd bring that back right in September when housing becomes a real issue for students. And then when we get back into October and beyond, we're going to start synthesizing things and saying, okay, what have we heard? What are our sort of outcomes that we're sort of seeing rising up to the top here? You know, what do we think that we're going to start doing in this draft document? Then we check it with the community a couple times and make sure, is this actually what you were saying? This is what we're hearing. This is what we get. Is this on board? And when we feel good enough about those results, then we take it to the planning commission, take it to city council and get it adopted. So this is somewhat aggressive for a comp plan process, but not necessarily for an update process. If this was a full comp plan, I'd say, we should probably do 2 or 3 years, right? For a 10-year horizon of like sort of how far out we're looking, this we don't need to. The update process is very useful, because yeah, things have happened in the last 5 years, but also if we want to make any substantive zoning ordinance changes, we really need to do this kind of activity first, because you don't want to be changing the ordinance without. Again, this is, I guess, the comprehensive plan is a guidance document. The zoning ordinance is the tool you use to implement the comprehensive plan. So we'll get to changing the ordinance after this process. Before this process, we don't want to do that. We're making little changes here and there. We have an amendment going through the process right now. Has nothing to do with housing. So like nothing to do, we haven't had any public comment, let's put it that way, at the public hearings. People said, yep, this is good. So we do that kind of zoning ordinance amendment, but for the real stuff that people are really going to get up in arms about, we're going to wait until after this process is done. Any questions about this timeline? Do you guys agree? Do you think this is a good approach? What do you think about the idea of having a speaker at lunch and then a workshop that day? The reason I thought about this, just to be honest, is because I have limited funds. Although we did get a $50,000 grant from MSHDA for this purpose, but I have limited funds. I don't want to be paying for consultants to come in 2 days a month versus 1 day. Or I guess I'm just looking at, can we save money? That's really where I'm coming from with this idea, but also that we'd have a pretty fresh, we'd have this fresh ideas in our mind. We'd have a couple hours to sort of ruminate on them, and then that evening have a workshop. But that's a big day too. Like you're spending a lot of time on planning stuff that day. I love it, but this is not everyone's full-time job, right? So I want to make sure that, I guess I just want to check that idea against this group. Any thoughts on this? Or do you think it's better to have a workshop a couple days afterwards or a week afterwards? And then my thought would be that the committee meeting would then come about a week after that comprehensive planning day. Any thoughts? Yes. I mean, the speaker lunch would probably be a couple hours, and the workshop would probably be a couple hours that evening. Just, okay. Okay. Excuse me. The committee is this group, and the workshop would be for anyone, and it'd be a wide open public event. And the format will be different. Typically, a workshop will be much more interactive, probably have small groups. We might do dot voting, we might do mapping, we might do might be a specific activity that wouldn't necessarily be the kind of thing we're going to be doing in the committee meeting. So I see them as separate. Yes, Aaron. No, sorry, that's Aaron. It's Renee.
How will it work if there are times?
Good question. And I think that that's absolutely going to happen. To me, I think, hey, you're getting value out of the speaker if you're going to the speaker, and you can always submit feedback in different ways. You can always send it. You could. There are other ways that we can get feedback other than at these workshops, I should say. Conversely, let's say you can go to the workshop without the speaker. You just won't be quite as informed going into it, but you might still have a lot of interest in whatever that topic is on that workshop and have a lot to bring to the table. So I don't think that it's a necessity to be at both. I think it'll be helpful to be at both, but not necessary. Let's go here and then here. Yes. Yes. The goal here is to make as much virtual option as possible. We are going to live stream the Dream Play Build activity on April 11th. So we'll have cameras in here, although it will be very unobtrusive. The workshop will take place, you won't know it, but it's being streamed. But the intent would be for all of these to have, if not live streamed, to have it be recorded and have a virtual option like we're doing right now. Although I know Dustin's on there. I hope it's working out well for Dustin and you can hear what's going on, but email me if it's not working out, Dustin. So does that address your question? Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes, Commissioner McDonald.
That, as someone who's not retired, yet, that was actually my question. Is there a, right, I don't know how, happy my employer would be for me to take off time in the middle of the day. Luckily, some of it's over my lunch, but it's nice to know that we're doing that.
Our tentative plan for timing right now for the lunches would be 11:30 to 1. So that would give people time to show up a little bit late if they need to. Maybe we'd have, you know, most of the lunch at 11:30 to 12, and then we'd have the speaker start at 12. Tentative, and then evening meetings. I mean, how was 6 o'clock for you guys? Did it work? It seems like it worked for the people who were here. Obviously, we're missing a few people, but 6 versus another time. We found that 6 usually works because then if someone's hungry, at least they have a little bit of time to stuff their face. Commissioner.
I think you, by going this route, your participation, and it might be significant.
Yeah.
Also,
That's a good point. So for those online, Councilmember Meadows just promised us all the money we need. That's great. Thank you. You know, I appreciate that. I trying to keep it quick and light, and I'm not sure, so far the budget that we put together is fairly small for a planning process, and I don't necessarily know if it needs to be bigger, except if we decide this approach needs to be changed, we need to add more meetings, whatever it might be, and that's gonna take some cost, and then we can do that. Want to do that soon, which is why it's good that we're doing this before the budget round, but that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Any other thoughts along that line, those lines?
I think you made it. No, I think it's good that you're providing a lot of time. So, everything.
Yeah.
Offer,
Yeah.
My job, but the remote options. So, I do think that there's a lot of opportunities there for the public. And I appreciate you outlining the timeline, but as well as the expectations for the narrower focus. I guess the thing that right now is what are we to do between? I came in at the scale end of the last comprehensive plan. You know, I guess what I envision is us kind of thinking about things through the lens of our perspective of various communities, professional, local neighborhoods, whatnot, and trying to present those ideas and comments at the community or meetings, I guess, to the view where I see when they're open to involved previous process comments on what the workload looks like.
So if I have my comment, my intent wouldn't be that your role would be to think, you know, think, talk, connect back with your constituents. Probably kind of set up your own, I think your own sort of feedback loop with the group that you represent. Wanted to give you time to check in, you know, the boards and commissions. There's a worksheet that we're going to go to in a moment in your binder that talks about when are the boards and commissions different schedules, and also some of the external groups, one of those meeting dates and times. So my thought would be that that would give some time for each member of this committee to get back to their groups and say, hey, here's what's going on. What do you guys think? Did you go to that last workshop? What did we not capture? You know, what are your concerns with this? I think that's a good way to do it. We also have some community events, like such as Moonlight Film Festival, the movies that are shown at different places. I can't remember where they're shown, but or the art festival, or whatever, the farmers markets, different community events that are happening. We intend to have staff there with a table to just kind of go, hey, we're doing this comprehensive plan update. Check it out. What questions, what thoughts do you have? So there'll be sort of a intermediate kind of engagement opportunity. And there are some things we can do too. I mean, we have a web page. The web page isn't super informative right now, but cityofeastlansing.com/plan update or comprehensive plan, whatever you want to do. But we can put some stuff on there too, yeah.
And I just thought to myself, as people are doing their work, or if you're thinking about what the city does,
Yeah.
it would be nice to have those principles or objectives outlined in a common way
Mhm.
on the website.
Okay. So like from the, yeah. So you don't like the multiple PDFs that you have to check and dig through a whole document? Okay,
Did that.
Yeah.
Heard, maybe when you want
Yeah.
it. So.
great exercise.
If someone's casually doing it for council.
Mhm.
or time, it'd be nice to toggle back to some site where it doesn't drive with that exactly where definitely. I just think it would be useful to get. Honestly, for what was in the 2018 plan.
That's a great suggestion. Has anyone here read the entire 2018 plan? Kind of taking a look. It's a great exercise. It's not, it's not the most compelling reading, but it still says, here's what we wanted to do in 2018. It's a good exercise to go through. I like that idea. We put the executive summary in your binder. The executive summary will be very easily to put up right up on the webpage. I like the idea about sort of writing out the goals. Yeah. Sure. How'd that work out? That's the question. Okay. Commissioner Renault.
I think in regards to your question about how the timing of all of the events, I think I would just caution us against getting stuck into the day speaker evening workshop.
Mhm.
And in some months, maybe change it up and make both things in the evening.
Mhm.
Only because I think if we truly have social equity at the heart of what we're trying to do, by having things during the day, we're immediately making that difficult for people who are economically marginalized and are working during the day. And it's even, honestly, even evening stuff, especially early evening.
Yeah.
Can be hard for who've been in their job and take care of their families. And so I think rather than getting locked in and just saying we're gonna do this every month, being flexible some months and maybe doing both in the evening and doing them on a weekend day. I know we're all probably very covetous of our weekends, because they are our own free time. But I think being flexible so that people from different groups can have an opportunity to participate to the largest extent.
Appreciate that. I'm looking around the room. Do I see nods? Heads shaking? How do you guys feel about that idea? Like not necessarily, let's make a friendly amendment. How do you feel about in general, the speaker series before the workshop, before the committee meeting? Does that sort of logic work? Okay, so then maybe it's not the same day. Maybe some are the same day, but as long as we have a workshop shortly following an expert speaker, and then a committee meeting to check it out afterwards. Does that sound good? Are there any days in particular that you say you would like? I've had planning commissions, for example, say, hey, stay the heck away from Fridays, right? That is my day to party, whatever it might be. And other people said, oh, Tuesdays are always terrible, whatever it might be. So how about we use this opportunity? Look in your binder. Hey, you have your contact list. Please use the contact list just for purposes of communicating about this. Timeline slide, which is what's up here right now, is in your binder. PC bylaws, powers, code excerpts, etc. Michigan Planning Enabling Act. This next one, scheduling worksheet, is the one that we want to look at. So basically, it's just a nice little chart. Thank you, Grace. Of a monthly calendar, a hypothetical month that sort of lists out the boards and commissions meeting schedules for East Lansing. And then also we found Ingham County Health Board, East Lansing Public Schools Board, CATA Board, et cetera, Tri-County Planning Commission. So we listed those out here as well. So to me, that says, hey, the third Thursday and the fourth Tuesday look pretty good. But I don't know how that works for the rest of the group. And that's where I'd also been going, hey, maybe this is a good thing to do a single day if we know that these days might be okay. But that's only really focusing on this committee, right? because that's the days and times of the commission meetings and the external groups. So, yes, Robbie.
Sorry, but part of my mistake is like saying I'm tired, I did not make fun of it.
Uh-huh.
I would think the hardest thing to do for pretty much everybody to do is that one.
Is that accurate?
Fun teacher is a workshop. And the evening around the weekend. That's what I'm missing by.
Getting seconds on weekends? Who likes weekends? Absolutely not. Well, it is difficult because a lot of people here are in their professional capacity and Saturday nights. Right. Yeah, yeah.
That's why. Them,
Sure.
those, legitimately, social equity. I
Mhm.
think for a weekend for other people, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Committee meetings should be in the week. Yeah. 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 Yes, Nick.
I think it's a wonderful example of, all of us.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Oh, no. Uh-huh. So for the public engagement, weekends might be okay. Okay.
The last go around, there were 5 subcommittees.
Yeah.
A lot of these things. What the proposals, we didn't consider that, that's another way to engage the public and at night, movie can utilize that.
Mhm. As far as like more topic-based subcommittees?
Correct.
Yeah. Thought about it. It's not my, I guess, preferred option just because we don't have the capacity necessarily for staff. But we could. We could get there. I mean, we're hiring, just made an offer on a senior planner, so things are gonna be better and easier for the planning department. So I like that. I like doing more. You know, there are things where we could do repeat workshop on the weekend. One thing we did in Grand Rapids when I was a planner there was we created a game. It was like, oh, it looks like the game of life. So you just do the game of life and take it home with your friends. And then you do your meeting on your own time and then turn it back in. That was very successful. It's just a lot of work up front to put it together. So like there are things we can do like that. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right things and getting your input on how we're doing this. So I'm hearing committee meetings during the week, engagement, possibly on weekends, maybe mix it up so it's not always the same day, but same day could be okay once or twice. Is that accurate? Other comments? Was that Renee? Yes. Yes. Our intent would be to live stream and record at least the speaker series, if not also the workshops. The speaker series would be for anyone. Yep. Public. Sue, was there a comment?
I know that everyone's, night meetings, because that's when, different commissions and council meet, but, it is possible to meet before 8 AM, like it's physically possible. I don't know if people are interested in doing that, but some people protect their evenings and not their mornings. I know some people are sleeping in at school, but I have other meetings that start, before 8. So it's just another possibility when we think of, offering other.
Sue and then Joseph.
But that we could use to know the data that, so you can, as opposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I'll move on to our next slide in just a second, but Joseph.
No, I think that it's that diversity. Beneficial and that it was.
Yep.
I do think that the remote options. is beneficial for a lot of people, but, that downtown.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do want to go back to something that Adam said about, subcommittees. I don't know that I was starting that way, but I wouldn't want to move it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
I would maximize time,
Mhm.
perspective, try to, while keeping within the votes, want to. That focus and it becomes a larger project.
Yeah. We want to maximize time, but you also want to maximize opportunity to talk things through and come up to with the right directions. I wonder, you said that maybe we don't do this now. Don't start with it, but keep that option open. I mean, I could see, would this subcommittees be formed by this committee? And maybe that's something we look into very seriously next meeting and say, do we want to form these subcommittees and which ones should it be? Does that sound good? Other thoughts on this before I move on, because the next slide is, let's schedule our next committee meeting, so we're not doing it at, at the beginning of the month. So I guess if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to say, so we'll hold on a subcommittee idea for the time being. Let's get these, at least the next couple committee meetings scheduled. We can. Did I put this in your binder too? I totally meant to. If I didn't, I don't think I did. Darn. Because that way we could just write it down. So with that, let's talk about this. Does anyone, this is right now. Our dream play build is on April 11th. We want to schedule a committee meeting the following week. Want to talk through April right now? So April 11th is a Thursday. Any thoughts on what we want to do for April? Certain dates out there that are better use. Yes. I don't know how good the Zoom is right now. I mean, it's just my face that they're seeing. Well, actually right up my nose because of the computer, but it's not as good for discussion, obviously, but it's good as far as listening in and being informed. So I think I can promise that we'll always have a Zoom option. It may not be very good, but it'll be there. I can work on making better Zoom option. But yeah.
We're not there. Thursday, doesn't have any scheduled meetings that we know about on here, actually.
Mhm.
And we start with that Thursday, so we after the event or something, and then see how it goes, talk about whether we want to do the next one. Off time, off day.
So you're saying just schedule April for now on the 18th and see how it goes after that?
Or maybe April, but
Okay.
stick to using kind of standard schedule, like a 6 o'clock on the Thursday, if there's nothing there. And then maybe our next meeting during the day or.
Okay. Just-
I think it's going to be pretty inefficient for us to try to. I do like that thing. Placeholder. Honestly, I thought it was very helpful for you.
Yeah. Okay. So you prefer sort of a polling, a schedule poll, I guess, every month? At least a month before we expect for the committee meetings. How does that feel to everyone if we just send out an email poll? I mean, the only problem with that is I gotta choose a date, and it's like, I know that I'm gonna be cutting people out. That sucks for me, but I can do that. I did it this time. Right.
Well, and maybe could be to 8 a.m. or at, mid.
How do people feel a noon meeting? I know you said it'd be troublesome.
Workshops at the. I was thinking the workshops and the speaker, but I think you know, the point over here that, and down on my right here, that we probably will all have to share the same, so to speak, right, like a lunch meeting is inconvenient for me, and I do like to sleep in. But, right, like, that's fine, I will wake up if I'm 1 month that, but the months that we have those early meetings, right, understanding that, like, I might ask you to give up your evening a couple of months. So I think at least my comment, right, I don't wanna speak for everyone else. My comment about prioritize, like, moving things around to prioritize public input. I was really focusing on public input, but I agree with some of the other comments that have been made, that we all might have to share the same,
Yeah.
meetings that don't necessarily.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
I like the idea of doing April Day on the third Thursday at 6:00. The other vote. And then doing the public meeting. Or Saturday, where one ride.
Yeah.
Can I make an unpopular suggestion perhaps, since now few people like the third Thursday, maybe alternate third Thursdays and fourth Tuesdays, because some of us have standing commitments on Tuesdays.
Yeah, this is a tough discussion. Councilmember.
But I would just say that generally speaking, one of the reasons that we set a date for committee meetings or commission meetings is for people to plan. So if the third Thursday comes to be as date for us to have committee meetings, I would suggest that at the regular meeting, why do we change if there's some conflict or it's not a quorum, something like that. But I think the other regular schedule, let's just all find the events.
Right. I think that diversity of time and date for the fast and but being able to know what you're counting on for this thing.
So how about I put this out there? We tried the third Thursday for April and May, which would be April 18th and May 16th, 6 p.m. here. And then send polling, a schedule poll, probably after the April committee meeting, and say, okay, let's look at some dates for June and July. Does that, so we'd set April and May tonight, and then poll later for June and July, and then beyond. Second. All right, that sounds okay? Yes.
June and July, in the summer, everyone's schedule changes, maybe you wanna go out more something.
All right. I'm just kind of looking around for shaking heads or nodding or, making this motion at me or something like that. Okay. So let's do that then. We'll make our next meeting Thursday, April 18th, 6 p.m. We'll plan on Hannah still on this room. We'll still need to check the availability of this room, but let's plan on Hannah. If not in this room, another one. I'll let you guys know. We'll plan on May 16th, also 6 p.m., also a Thursday. And then after that, see how it goes. April 11th, that Dream Play Build is going to be in the evening, 5:30 here. Future workshops and public engagement will just kind of mess around. It won't always be on the same day or same time. But we can sort of schedule as they go. And I think like the speaker availability will kind of set that as well, for at least those speaker series. Workshops, I think, is definitely a good idea to sort of jump it around and have different times. Okay, well, I feel good about that. That at least sets it for a couple months. Any discussion? Any final thoughts? I have 6:57 right now, so if there's committee discussion, if there's more discussion about anything. yeah, so the next steps, like I mentioned, Dream Play Build on April 11th. Please distribute these flyers that are in your packet. Give them out, pass them out, scan them and send them to your networks. If you want more hard copies, I'm very happy to print a ton of hard copies for you. But we want to get the word out about this. Like I said, we probably have 100 spots and they're gonna fill pretty quick. So Eventbrite is where you can register. There's a link. This link on the QR goes to our comp update page, but then there's a link to register on that page. May 9th is gonna be Rex Lamore for the first speaker series, like I said, about sort of framing our conversations and thoughts for this process. We expect that to be during the day. Not sure about the location right now. We're trying to figure that out because Hannah and MSUFC downtown are both full, but we'll get there. The May workshop, this is one thing I just wanted to ask. I haven't really set a May workshop. I kind of wanted to see, and I want to talk to Rex about it, like see if he has some suggestions, but I don't really have a set topic or like activity for the May workshop. I'm just gonna put it out there that if you think of something that you think would be very useful, please just email me and let me know. We have some flexibility with that first workshop. I do want to do something. I just don't want to. It's just kind of early and open, so we can discuss things that aren't necessarily in plan otherwise. We took care of future committee meetings, or at least for the next two. Other was just so you guys can think, what else do I need to do? And go back and talk to your groups to keep them updated on what's going on here, get their feedback and bring it back. Anything else? Want to make a motion? Second. Right on. Well, again, thank you guys so much for being here. Really appreciate it. We have the room, so stick around if you want to talk. And we'll be back on April 18th, 6 p.m. right here.